Hi everyone, and welcome to my review of Outlander Season 5, Episode 5. Sorry this is a little delayed, but like I told you guys on Saturday, I was out of the country. I did get a chance to watch the episode on the plane on the way back. I was able to download it to my phone and watch it. You all have been so encouraging about the past couple episodes, so I'm very sorry that this one was delayed, but you know, that's how it goes, and I had a wonderful time on my trip. But I wanted to get this up to you as soon as I got back, so I'm going to tell you my thoughts and breakdown for this episode. I'm going to warn you up front, it's not very good. I was very disappointed. I found myself equally enraged as well as kind of bored about a few things. There were some things in the story that I feel are important to the characters, but it also was things that I'd already known or I thought they weren't going to even touch, because they're things that were explored in book 3, so would have been season 3 of this show. Things that should have got brought up and mentioned by Claire a lot earlier. And so it just was kind of a weird place for it to be. I understand story-wise why it's there. I'll get into that in a minute. Again, I'm just putting this up front because, again, I feel like there's so much. And I guess my question is, maybe because the way that they're, Diana always says that they would never out film her, the way that happened with George R. R. Martin. But let's be honest, a book hasn't come out for her for, I believe it is 4 or 5 years since the last book came out. And they have been making these shows about one season a year, and we're already, tipping past the halfway point of what we have. And so my thoughts are, and this is just a general ramble, is that maybe we are coming to the point where we're not going to be going book for book or book for season anymore, which would be totally fine. I'm about to film, the reason these are here is I'm about to film my review for book 6, and this book spans 3.5 years of life for these people. And I believe the Fiery Cross is around 2, and that's a lot of time to cover, especially the way things are happening in the show. So maybe the reason some things are happening slowly here is we're maybe not going to keep going season for book anymore, which would be fine. It just makes me anxious because if that's not what's happening, we're now 5 episodes in, and in fact we're telling parts of the story that aren't even fully in that anymore. And so I don't know, my head is just in a weird place after it, and this episode was just, there was some really good gold in it, and then there was some stuff that I just didn't like. So like I've done in the last couple, I'm going to kind of go over the overarching story that happened, and then I'll kind of break down my thoughts for you, which, as I said, mostly lean towards the negative. I'll try not to make this a rant, but who cares? That's what I'm here for. I can say what I want. This is a recap and rehash, and I'll do what I want with it. So there's 3 main storylines going on in this episode. We have Claire needs to do surgery on the Beardsleys. They both have really problemed tonsils that are causing infections and illness, and they're not able to eat super well, and it's not great. So she has, she had been working to discover the right strain of penicillin, which grows on bread mold, which we had seen her setting up in previous episodes. And she thinks she's found it now. So she's going to do this quick surgery and cut their tonsils out and hopefully keep them from getting sick in the future. So we have that. And while Claire is struggling with this, she's struggling with a case that was actually her last case as a doctor in back in the 1960s, and that is of this Scottish man who, in the show, he was allergic to penicillin, and the test came back negative for it, which apparently there can be a false negative, and he ends up dying before, when they give him penicillin. And that case, because of who this person is, that he's Scottish, and he reminds her a lot of Jamie and what he might have been like when he got older, and just, he is missing his wife who's passed, and just all these things. So there's an arc for Claire we're dealing with. So when we see her different scenes of it, I'll just talk about Claire's whole part before we move through, because then we're not bouncing around too much. And she's reflecting on, it's actually very beautiful how the episode started out, because it started out with voiceover, which we haven't had a ton of this season. There's only been a little bit, but we see her, all these flashes from previous seasons of like her meeting Jamie and their relationship and everything happening and just what she went through. And we don't really know what the purpose of that is. It's a nice little flashback. That's cool. Love those. It was really beautiful to see. They look so young, just like 6 years ago. You know, it's crazy. And then through the episode, she's reflecting on time and saying that memories are the devil and time is, you know, this God that's ever pushing us forward or something like that. And it turns out that kind of this whole story with this man who died is what pushes her to try to reconnect with Bree, because there's been some tension between them that's probably been there most of their lives, actually, or most of Bree's life, actually, and especially since Frank has passed. And she ends up asking Bree to come to England with her, and she's trying to find a way, you realize she's trying to find a way to tell Bree about Jamie. And I really like that. I really like that we got the backstory to that and we get to see some more of that. Again, things that we, you know, saw in previous books, we would have seen that. We would have known this already, but I like how they're weaving it in. And I love getting to see Claire be a doctor in the flashbacks. Like, I don't have a problem with that. And it was really beautiful, her arc and how she's able to, I love getting to see her do medical things, because in the books, that's one of my favorite parts, is when she uses her medical brain and she's solving problems and trying to figure out how to take her knowledge that she has of the future and use what she has in the past to make people's lives better, and how she does that for the Ridge and the people she loves there. I adore it. So I really liked that arc. I really enjoyed hers. Probably my favorite parts of the episode. I like seeing how her and Marcelly are working together. We're seeing the passage of time. Marcelly's getting bigger. We know there's a baby in there cooking to come soon. And I really enjoy that. I really like seeing it. I thought it was played really beautifully through when Jamie gets back at the end of the episode. And he, you know, brings her Adso, which I love. I love that that we get that little kitten. I love the pets. I love animals in books and movies, and especially since they're hard to film with, I'm glad that they still give us our animal companions. I'm a big fan of Adso, so that was really cool. And I love how Claire tells Jamie, she's like, it's so funny because the case of this person died and it was horrible, but he was the catalyst that made me want to have closure and maybe not as afraid to reach out to you. And now we understand a little better of like that scene at the end of the second season where she sits down at his grave and tells him everything that happened, and she's kind of like trying to release him but also honor him. And that's where we actually get the, you know, title of this episode, Perpetual Adoration, which is what apparently this faith does. You know, you're always remembering the people who were lost. And I really love that. I thought it was really beautiful that now we understand what all those flashes were, that all of those things that happened to her, she wouldn't like have this now if this man hadn't died. And just that there was a purpose to all of it, and it led her back to Jamie, and it led her to have her daughter and a son-in-law and a grandchild, that just none of that would have happened without that. And I really love that. It was beautiful. It's one of those things that there are conversations that we would see happen in the book too, you know, where Diana's so beautiful at weaving that, where Jamie often has moments of reverie like that, and Claire does, where they're like, wow, look at where we are, look at what's happening. So let's talk about Jamie and Knox, because I can pretty quickly discuss about how frustrated I am with where they're going with this. We have Jamie. He has brought the militia that he has to this one town. They're meeting up with the Redcoats again. He's meeting back up with Knox after they'd kind of went their separate ways to gather people. And they find out that some of the Highlanders are going to be pardoned, or not just the Highlanders, the regulators are going to be pardoned, and they're going to kind of try to end this dispute and move along, but Murtaugh still needs to be punished, and Knox really has a hard-on for this guy and just really wants to take him down. And we know that Knox is trying to find the list of Ardsmuir and see, you know, who he has connections with. And so Jamie knows that there's a ticking clock for him, because when this guy gets these papers back, he's going to see that Jamie and Murtaugh are related, and that it's not going to go well. And this leads to something that I just have so many problems with. And here's the thing. Jamie, he has killed people. He has murdered people before. Like, it has happened. There are many discussions in the book. There was some in this book, the one I just finished, of him talking about, like, the weight of his soul. And, you know, he always tries to make sure there's no other option before he does something. And that, you know, people that he... Like, Jamie believes in justice. He's not above revenge. Like, he's not above that, but that isn't how he tries to live his life. And he's also someone who... Sorry, garbage truck. He's also someone who doesn't kill for his own gain, which that isn't 100% what happened here. Because what happens here, anyway, so he tells him this, and then later on they meet, and Jamie's drinking with the guy, and he tells him, you're going to find my name on that list because I was at Ardsmuir, and he's my godfather. And Knox, who, now I understand a little better, because I feel like this Knox person, he had a very small role in the books. Like, we didn't really deal with him at all. And also, this whole Murtaugh thing is completely not what happened anyway. There was a completely other kind of skirmish that we had, which it looks like we're still gonna have. So, I just don't know. It's all such a mess now. And I know, I've said it before, I'm trying not to compare it to the book too much, but I also don't know what they're doing to this man. And I have big problems with it. I already had little problems with how they were having him treat Roger, but I was hoping, you know, I was hoping that's all gonna shake out as, like, they go about this different arc with Roger. But the way that they have Jamie, you know, play this out and then kill this guy because he knows too much, just, I don't even know. Like, I can't mix that with my Jamie Fraser, and I'm really kind of frustrated. I don't know, guys. Like, I don't know. I'm really frustrated. And I don't know where we're going with that. But that's kind of one of the things is, yeah, Jamie kills this guy. And, I mean, then he finds the cat. And so they're trying to make it like, oh, but he saved a kitty. I'm like, he just murdered this guy because he knew this info. And they wouldn't have, like, ugh. There are other ways to make Jamie a complex morally than having this. Like, there are other ways to do that, and I don't like it. So let's move on from that. I don't like it at all. So let's move on to the third storyline, and the one that, yeah. And that is Roger and Bree and Bonnet and what's going on with this. So the arc we have for this one is we start off our Bree and Roger scenes with this beautiful scene where they've just made love, and they're having this cute little scene together, and he mentioned something about, like, all the great colleges that are out there are getting started right now. And maybe he could, you know, he's just philosophizing. He's like, maybe I could still be a teacher somehow. Because there are these places that do that. And, you know, and Bree gets really excited because she's like, oh my gosh, I could teach math or do something like that. And Roger's kind of like, I'm sorry, I was just reminiscing. I need to be a part of the militia. I promised you're your father, and I mean to keep my word. And we see Bree be kind of sad about it or whatever. And okay, that's fine. They're making Bree kind of wimpy. And, ooh, guys, you know how I feel about Bree. She's my favorite character outside of, I mean, you saw that. Like, if you watched my video last week, I told you who my favorite characters outside of Jamie and Claire were, and Bree is number one for me. And I don't like what they're doing to her. So then we have, she went out mushroom hunting, and Roger's bonding with his son, and he knocks over a thing, and he finds the diamond that Bonnet gave to Bree, which he just assumes this is the same black diamond because he had played a game of he'd played a card game with Bonnet and lost this gem to him. And, you know, I'm sure there aren't a ton of black diamonds, and this one's really specific, but also because of her, you know, interaction with Bonnet, he maybe like jumps to that conclusion. So then when Bree comes back, he kind of ambushes her with, when did you see Bonnet? And she tells him what happened. And she admits that she said that Jemmy was his to make him feel better because she thought he was going to die. Now, in the show, at this point, she doesn't say that he's still alive, which she knows, but Roger doesn't know. And so we don't even share that part right now. But he freaks out on her, saying, you've never told me that my son is mine. Who do you believe that it is? Which, I mean, Bree, like, we know she's conflicted about that. And how should she know whose it is? And there's so many layers to, like, who Jemmy really belongs to. And I don't know how far you've read into the books, but it's not a question that's up for debate once you're past this book for sure, which I won't spoil that for if you're, you know, whatever. But it's a question that's not up for debate. But either way, it is up for debate at this point. But it's also not. Because just at the beginning of this season, when they're trying to resurrect this character of Roger because the showrunners have systematically made him horrible to a lot of viewers and people who only watch the show, they take all that goodwill and work they've slowly been trying to build up, trying to make him seem like a good enough man for this woman and all these things. He made a blood oath to his son, claimed him as his own, said it didn't matter. Roger himself is an adopted son. Bree was adopted, but didn't find out until later, basically adopted by Frank. So many people in this are all adopted. Claire herself, adopted by her uncle. Every person in this show is adopted by someone. Fergus, everyone. And Roger just freaks out and says, how dare you have said that? Where we see Bree being traumatized and he just freaks out and runs away and hides in the woods overnight. And so that happens. Claire ends up finding him the next morning, not on purpose, but they talk. She tells him, he says, would you have wanted to tell Bree sooner that Jamie was her father? And she said no, because Frank, he loved her so much. And, one of the best parts of that marriage was how he took care of Bree and loved her as his own and never made her feel different. And she admits, she's like, I wouldn't do it any different. Even if it would have got me to Jamie sooner, I wouldn't have done it any differently. And, that's good. That's a conversation that is had in the books. It's had at a different time, but that's really powerful. Roger goes back to Bree near the end of this episode, apologizes to her, says that he's sorry. It's just really intense. And he's like, it's good that we have that gem because it is your ticket home if Jemmy can travel when he gets bigger. And he's like, and then Bree says, Bonnet's not dead. I found out at our wedding that he's still alive. And Roger's like, well, that's it. As soon as we can know if he can travel, we will all go home. We'll go back to the future, and then we won't have to worry about him at all. All right. So, okay. Good things in this episode. Claire's medical stuff, the reminiscing, great. Everything else, I don't know what's happening. And again, it's not that I don't need every part of the books to be shown, right? What's the hardest for me? The hardest part to wrap my mind around and the things that it makes it painful for me to watch is when they start changing the hearts of my characters. And yes, I claim them as mine. I don't care. I'm a fangirl. This is a gush. This is a rant. I claim them as my own. There's a feeling I get when I spend time with these characters that feels like I know them. And the choices they're making, and even listening to what the writers say about why they have them do that. What the hell are you doing with Roger? Why are you making him do this? Why does he have such an exaggerated reaction when he's already chosen Jem as his own? Why isn't he being comforting to Bree? Why is Bree just letting him do this? you know, from the beginning, she's been so mopey about whether he would stay or not, this character in the TV shows. And I really, really hate that, because Bree in the book, from the minute he comes home, she doesn't rush up to kiss him or hug him or be like, oh my God, be with me. She's like, you will be here, you will love this son as your own, or leave, because I won't have you here because you feel sorry for me or because you think I need you to, you know, whatever. She's like, if you're gonna be with me, it's because we're doing this together, and we're not gonna, like, any questions or hurts we have, like, we're going to share them. And she puts her foot down with that. And that's when he makes the oath and asks her to marry him. That's done. Like, him questioning if he'll be a father and that, like, that's done. That doesn't mean they don't still struggle with the question, and it doesn't still eat at him, not knowing if, you know, the man who raped the love of his life, if that son is his, he still will love that son, but it eats at him until there's an answer. But the way that they have him attacking Bree for it and placing, like, some anger on her, no, I do not like it at all, because that's not where Roger's anger comes from. He would never blame her for keeping that kind of secret, even if she had kept that kind of secret, which she doesn't. And also, he would want revenge. He wants to find Bonnet and kill him. And him and Jamie, they argue over who gets to kill him. It's something they argue about until there's an answer for it when said thing happens. They're always like, whose right is it? Is it Jamie's as a father or Roger's as the husband? Like, or is it Bree's right? Because it was her, which Jamie will argue for that at one point. And seeing Bree, like, she still struggles with this. That's what the pictures are. That's what the things. But to see her just let Roger's anger make her so upset, like, and cry about it, just makes me so frustrated. I love this actress. She's tearing me apart. She is beautiful. Sophie Skelton does so good. None of my critiques have anything to do with the actors or what they're doing with what they're given. To me, it's why are they given this to do? And that's enough ranting about this. I'm about to record my review for A Breath of Snow and Ashes, which will be a total gush and just love, because I can't wait. So if you want to see me be happy about Outlander, please check out my Outlander playlist. It is on my page. I always try to link it, but YouTube's been being weird with my links up there. But I have a whole playlist reviewing all of the books up through book 5, as well as all previous episodes of this season and previous seasons before that. So thank you so much for watching. Sorry this was a little more negative. I like to be happier than this, but it happens. They're not all going to be a winner. Thank you so much for watching, and I put up 3 to 4 videos a week, and I'll see you next time.